I genuinely can't believe that Oda has made the Holy Knights this powerful. They're capable of insane feats that allow them to absolutely wash the Straw Hats and the Giants in this chapter, but more importantly, I have discovered that their powers not only seem to have incredibly dark and twisted origins, but also that they may in fact be tied to one of the Straw Hats. And I'll be completely honest here, Gunko straight up might be one of, if not even the most broken member of this group that we've met so far. And on top of seeing how she just casually mopped the floor with like half the crew in a single fight here, in this chapter we also see Gunko effortlessly use her arrows in a variety of ways to make this chunk of the crew look like a bunch of pushovers. She casually defeats the crew with single strikes and an ability reversal in Nami's case, and even the crazy ability to make others attack each other like Brook and Jinbei, which I want to talk about in just a couple of moments here. And yes, I do know at first defeating them may not sound like that crazy a feat, but you kind of have to remember that even the weaker members of the Straw Hats crew at this point can take some real hits and are face to face with some truly powerful people based on all the previous fights recently in the series. Plus, let's not joke around here. They're in the presence of Brook and Jinbei, you know, fast and very capable warriors who weren't able to do anything here. To me, kind of showcasing just how fast Gunko actually is and why I think that she's such a crazy threat. And at the very least, her abilities are so disorienting that not even a really powerful Haki user like Jinbei undoubtedly is can even handle her initial assault here. Okay, but I do want to start by circling back to that ability reversal arrow thing that Gunko has going on here, because in the chapter we see her flip the direction of Nami's attack, this like really cool electric storm cloud shark thing, and then just straight up send it right back to her. In the process, creating what is probably one of the coldest panels I've seen in a fight, including Nami, and it's just a little bit unfortunate, I think, that it was Brook who got hit in this case, but hey, it happens to the very best of us, I guess. Now, the reason that I really want to talk about this specifically right from the get-go is because time and time again, we've been seeing Gunko use incredible powers that really, in my opinion, show just how unbelievable, crazy, and versatile her Devil Fruit power actually is. Like, it's not even funny that this thing is just beyond broken, and the same actually seems to go for all the other Holy Knights as well, but Gunko seems to have crazy levels of mastery of her power specifically to a degree that really makes me question if her fruit is even something normal, quote unquote, or something more. Because genuinely, I'm not even kidding, I can maybe think of like 2-3 characters in the story that even come close to having this many total variations and unique abilities with how their fruit can actually be used, and those characters are Law, for the obvious fact that with his rooms and their awakening, he can sort of just manipulate the laws of physics and even personalities inside of a confined space or of a specific item. Then we of course have also Doflamingo, who can use his awakened strings to control people's minds and the terrain, fly on clouds, create clones, heal his own heart, and then of course Bonnie, who can seemingly do anything that her mind can actually imagine and then turn into that. But apart from these characters, I guess not even Luffy has the crazy levels of diversity that Gunko seems to display in just a couple of chapters here. She can transform her own body into arrows. She then sends them out like daggers and blades, grow to a large size with them, and as we've seen in this chapter, reverse counterattacks by guiding the arrows around an ability and giving them a new direction. What? Is Gunko the main character in Secret and just playing a video game? But not only that, she can also create objects or structures like the bird that she glides on, guiding sleeping targets like the children on a path, and most importantly, straight up break the future itself. All right, like maybe break is a little bit extreme here, but seriously, her future confirming arrows seem to be able to guarantee a future that not even future side Haki is able to deny, apparently, at least if we take her at her word for this. I'm not gonna poke around the bush. I've had some doubts ever since she used this power on Loki that it could be her incredible confidence that causes her to say this future is absolute before her white arrows then show the path of her incoming attacks. However, honestly, the more we see of her and the more she uses her abilities, the more I'm actually starting to open up, believing that she can actually break the laws of time and space and just genuinely guarantee an attack if she lands the arrow on her target. Now, interestingly enough, this wouldn't be the first time that we actually see an ability just like this in action, because Kid, for instance, can do something kind of similar with his awakened devil fruit, but again, that just goes to show you how many different powers this, like, boring sounding arrow fruit actually has in practice. So I gotta say, I'm very skeptical that she's just a normal character with a a normal devil fruit right now, and I do think you can kind of start to see why I'm thinking that. Especially considering that I haven't even mentioned that, you know, the big elephant in the room here, she can also regenerate her brain and stuff. Like, straight up, her head gets blown off and she just, alive and well, fixes it. What the hell is even that? Now, I thought this sort of thing was kind of going to be reserved for the top dogs, for the Gorosei, and then obviously probably Emu, but you're not telling me that Gunko can survive half of her body being exploded off and look absolutely unfazed and bored? Boy, she's a whole lot of woman, and I'm kind of starting to think that this, you know, let me know if you think this too. I feel like this might not be completely normal. I don't know, I'm just saying, if you cut me in half, I'm pretty sure that I probably wouldn't come back from that, right? Or maybe, I don't know. Also, before we forget it here, quick props to Usopp for not only being the only person to land an attack, but also landing the coldest looking attack he ever had in the story against her. You know, with that giant skull appearing when he obliterates her. Well, it's pretty awesome to see. Almost as awesome as the regeneration that happened afterwards. Though I do really want to point this out once again because it's really interesting in a way. The fact that Usopp was the one who exploded her, like she couldn't resist his attack. Now, whether that's because her defenses and haki are weakened due to the sick power, or she just was confident in her regeneration power and Oda wanted to show that off, I still kind of find it interesting that the Holy Knights haven't really displayed any real haki feats so far. You know, I mean, just the very off-putting and broken regeneration abilities. Even Brook was taking off guard by it, by the way, and his whole thing is being undead and revived and healing by drinking milk, but maybe that's why he was specifically used to call that out, because this type of regeneration power goes against anything that he knows and understands about the underworld and defies his basic understanding of, you know, how anything in this world is supposed to work. And actually, I'm not quite sure, like, there are some big things in this chapter and recent chapters that kind of have me questioning Brook's entire role in the story, and you'll see why I think that he might be part of the main key of defeating all of the Holy Knights by the end of this video, when we're gonna talk about the connections between him and all of them and the Abyss and Emu, which actually is kind of insane considering that Gunko's powers may be tied to the darkest thing in the series itself, Emu. Now, if you're a regular viewer of this channel, first off, thank you, but also you will remember that I've touched on this idea before. In case you missed it though, I do believe that Gunko has some sort of direct tie to Emu based on the dark arrows. After all, this appears to be the very same power that was used to attack Sabo and Cobra back in Marijoa during chapter 1085. And I even have another really cool thing I noticed with this to talk about in just a moment, but for now, this arrow thing tying her to Emu alongside the regeneration that she now apparently shares with all of the Gorosei and her incredibly loyal demeanor about being gods of this world makes me think that she's maybe got some direct tie with the big dog at the top of the world, especially because so far she's the only Holy Knight that was apparently not born as a celestial dragon. Also, I find it pretty telling that Gunko seems to be the main Holy Knight that is using the Abyss to summon people. I mean, as a quick reminder here, the Abyss is what the weird demonic pentagram that the Gorosei and the Holy Knights use to, you know, fast travel around the world and summon people, and it's surrounded by these black flames and epic black lightning, you know the thing, we've seen it a bunch of times now. And so don't you find it very interesting that Gunko also just happens to seem to create her arrows from the dark flames that typically also accompany the Abyss? I mean, you can see this in this panel from chapter 1137, as when she steps, her foot is accompanied by dark flames that her arrow then slither out of. And I think you can tell pretty clearly that it's detached from her foot and coming out of the ground, because in the other panel you see the whole arrow wrapped around her foot, but in this one you can see her boots look absolutely normal. And I don't know, man, I just think that all of this stuff, including her eyes being unique and oddly Emu adjacent, kind of seem to be Oda's way of specifically pointing out that the Abyss, or Emu, or maybe Emu using the Abyss, helps boost all of these people's devil fruit powers. Or maybe corrupting them and making them more powerful that way, and it may just be that simple. Emu grants them the Abyss, and that then buffs up their upper limits, allowing them to do things that normally you couldn't do with a regular devil fruit. Like, what if her power normally would just be shooting out arrows and wrapping them around her body to do the cool stilts thing, but thanks to Big Boy Emu, she can bend reality and now warp attacks around her and counter them back. I think at least this could explain how someone like Killingham is also able to manifest dreams on such a massive and powerful scale, or how Summers can use his thorns to do such devastating damage that pushes the concepts of love. I mean, it could even help explain how Shamrock's sword is capable of doing something so unique without a devil fruit, it seems. Again, as far as we know, when it was announced, the sword just said Cerberus, not the Inu Ino no Mi model Cerberus. Really, as far as I'm concerned, until this sword gets a devil fruit announcement, this thing is actually straight up a demonic dog to me. But then again, if it should actually turn out to be directly tied to the Abyss, serving as its guardian or something of the sort, then that would help explain why it can be summoned through the leader of the Holy Knight's blade as well. Because all of them clearly seem to have full mastery over this Abyss power, and I do think it's that what is gonna really set them apart in this final saga, as we've seen so far already, where up to this point, they look absolutely unbeatable. Alright, but now I've said and talked to you about already how they are so powerful and what the Holy Knights are capable of, blah blah, but we still need to really stew on a little bit more, I think, how they'll actually at some point be defeated then, and if it will happen in this arc or at some point later in the story. And to be completely honest with you here, I'm not that confident they will be defeated in Elbaph. You see, I noticed something really interesting a while ago, and it's that this arc seems to be a direct parallel to Sabaody Archipelago in so many ways. You know, I think that a lot of people, including me, kind of figured that Egghead would be the Sabaody-esque style arc due to Kizaru's presence, but as we saw, the crew walked out of that one pretty fine. It was like not too bad, but I doubt that that might be the case in Elbaph, because we've got celestial dragons at the center of it. It's framed to be a shorter arc based on the don't linger too long in Elbaph thing, you know, that we still don't have full clarification on why that's the case. And then now, third, we've got an unbeatable force to overcome with the Holy Knights, who seem to be playing the Kizaru role, as in they're just completely invulnerable for any of the Straw Hats, basically. I guess kind of Oda bringing Logia fruits back without actually bringing Logia fruits back, if you really think about it. Interesting. But what I found even more interesting is that Sabaody is also the arc where Rayleigh is first introduced as the former right-hand man of the Pirate King, and he was of course the one who showed us how Haki could be used to overcome the previously super broken Logia powers that we've been seeing up till this point. And now on Elbaph, we have my boy Scopper Gaban here, the left-hand man of the Pirate King, who was the first person to detect the intruders on the island automatically, and their very abnormal presence as well. Now, you know, we've talked about this quite a bit here, and I was pretty sure that after this arc, Scopper might be gonna teach Luffy or the entire crew some, you know, important techniques to defeat the Abyss powers, and now I'm pretty much certain of it. Like, let's be real here. Gunko has officially stolen his son Colin. I love that that rhymes. And the dude's gonna, you know, want his kid back, I think. Probably. I don't know, like, Colin could be a bit of a mess, but yeah, let's assume he's a good dad. And in order to do that, he'll probably need the Straw Hats' help, since, as we saw with Rayleigh on Amazon Lily when he faced off with Blackbeard, the older generation, still very broken. Rayleigh, my favorite character, and Scopper Gaban, my second favorite character, but not quite strong enough anymore to deal with the big modern threats. And so I would say that teaching the crew will be the only way to really assure that his son's gonna be saved. After all, they do need to save their new captain, Colin, so, you know, the Colin pirates can actually sail the oceans and discover the All Blue, or whatever Colin's goal as a pirate captain really is. I don't know. Maybe becoming Loki? I don't know. Okay, as I said, since this arc is just oozing Sabaody from every pore, it would also mean that a very dramatic and devastating ending is in store for the crew, which I think Scopper has actually been alluding to with all of his offhand comments about "see me if the island is still intact and alive" and stuff, or last chapter when he said that Elbaph isn't safe when he detected Gunko killing him in Summers. And alright, since I see you looking at me with these very asking and questioning eyes, I'll let you know what I truly think that this tragic event is that may occur in this arc that sets everything into motion. And this chapter very much adds and plays into this. I mean, it all starts with one of the Gorosei, Saint Shepherd Jew Peter. Because something that I've noticed when I look back at previous chapters of the Gorosei is that Jew Peter here specifically is the one who seems to bring up Nico Robin. During Egghead Island, this happened, and he actively questioned if they could still bring her her in as well. And conveniently right now, we have Saint Shepherd Summers defeating Saul, and he's now within grasp of being able to kidnap and take Robin. Now, the main reason I wanted to bring this up is because this would be an incredibly mean and on-brand way for Oda to kick off a new arc, because he finally lets Robin and Saul reconnect, only to have her kidnapped straight from his protection once again and brought up back to the Holy Land, potentially leading to a giant raid to go save her so that Luffy can eventually read the poneglyphs and find Laugh Tale. That, or we might just have the whole Scopper wants his kid back and Loki wants to avenge the fallen Elbaph, so he helps the Straw Hat raid the Holy Land thing. Either way, we do know that a big war is coming, like at some point, whether we want it or not, and both sides are building up their forces at this point. A war, by the way, that according to Gunko will get heavily swayed depending on whose side the Giants actually end up on, which I just want to point out at this point doesn't look great for the government that the Giants will join them. They're not exactly approaching it very intelligently, but never know, maybe the blackmail works. And either way, it still doesn't answer our question here: how will the Straw Hats make it off this island alive at this point? Because if what I'm predicting is gonna come true, nobody around would actually be capable of defeating the Holy Knights with their abyssal regeneration, and they could just wipe the floor with the entire crew and the entire island. Well, I guess that's not entirely fair to say. My patrons could probably defeat the Holy Knights with their premium access to my exclusive Ohara content. You know, they're kind of sick with it like that. But on a more serious note, I do want to bring Brook back into the equation here once again, because he's actually legitimately, I mean, I like Brook in general, but he's this time really got some crazy stuff going on in this chapter. And actually, let's be real here, the last two arcs, if we're entirely honest. And poetically enough, I think it all ties back quite nicely to Sabaody once again. You see, Brook of course got launched away by Bonnie's dad Kuma and was sent to Namakura Island, where he was mistaken for Satan after he conveniently appeared right in the center of their demonic pentagram summoning circle. Low-key just one of the funniest scenes in the entire series to me till this day, but I'm kind of starting to think that it is way more relevant than any of us really thought. You see, Oda always seems to use the time skip as a way of explaining oddworld occurrences that have deeper ties to the ancient world and to stuff that happens after the time skip. Like, we can see this through Nami's Weatheria journey, where she learns about the weather knots, and then suddenly at the end of Egghead, we do see these knots reappearing, but it was this time infused with Joy Boy's god tier hockey instead. And of course then the Vegapunks going to Weatheria themselves. So I don't think it's a coincidence that Brook's time skip adventures featured him being a demon summoned from a pentagram, and now we have the Holy Knights and the Gorosei actively using pentagrams to travel the world and summon dark flames and lightning. But not only that, I also found it super interesting that Brook, out of all people, knows about the Holy Knights. Like, what the heck is that all about? I mean, sure, he's a little bit older, but as far as I know, nobody besides Dragon and the Marines really know that they even exist, I think. And we do know that the rest of the crew for sure doesn't, because Jinbei says to Gunko, "Oh, you're a celestial dragon?" ? And Brook chimes in with a quick, "Actually, no, she's probably even better. Most likely she's a Holy Knight," which honestly came out a little bit of left field for me. Like, I kind of felt like I got punched by the words when I read that chapter. Do you feel the same way? Like, it caught me off guard in a very odd way that Oda doesn't normally do. Again, these guys are supposed to be a secret. Nobody seems to know about them, and so the fact that Brook, out of all people, is the person who knows about them is like red sirens in my head. And on top of that, Brook has some other quick throwaway comments in this chapter about the regeneration and how absurd their attacks are, and even his attack name seemed like a specific call out. Like, he even has a panel here where a question mark appears when Gunko responds distastefully to being called a human. Alright, but rolling this back to the attack name, I wanted to point out that he attacks Gunko, someone the community has been theorizing is an ex or undercover revolutionary based on her outfit and design, with an attack that translates to revolutionary dance. I don't know, maybe just a fun little potential bit of evidence in that camp, but actually Brook's knowledge and ties to the satanic elements of One Piece leave me with another wild question. And hear me out on this one. Was Brook maybe a former celestial dragon? Like, this sounds weird, but I think it might be possible. Or as a military member, maybe he confronted them in his original home country. But I gotta say, I really like this possible celestial dragon idea. It could explain why he knows who the Holy Knights are, why Gunko listens to his music specifically, and why he was oddly framed when Gunko says, "I am a god." Plus, to be honest, he always had an air of elegance about him already that totally fits in line with what we know about Merijoa. They're so much more formal and regal, and while yes, Brook is a pervy guy as well, he does frame himself very similarly to how they do now that I really think about it. Now, I will acknowledge it's a wild idea, but if this were to be the case, boy, it would totally help the Straw Hats out with defeating these guys at some point, because his insider knowledge that he could have would absolutely help flip the tides of the battle in their favor, especially if he has an idea for how their abyss powers actually work. And for all we know, it could even be the reason that he has this specific devil fruit and this odd attachment to the underworld. Like, maybe he's much closer to this abyss power than we all realized. And considering that his ability to regenerate and defy death himself is only matched by characters that use the abyss, it does kind of seem to me like his ties to the underworld aren't that far off to the abyssal powers anyways. Though, since we do know that Gunko is a big fan of Brook, I also think that he could set up an incredibly fun escape path for the Straw Hats as well. You know, like, I feel like a real Oda move here would be for Brook to rip it on the guitar as Soul King, and suddenly Gunko realizes who he is and is too starstruck to hurt him or the crew, allowing them to escape successfully here, and giving them time to learn about the abyss, their powers, and a way to defeat them after Elbaph. And trust me, these powers are insane and might just straight up be a whole hidden secret power system that Oda has been building, especially if it's attached to another key aspect of IMMORTAL's story. I'm talking about the Forbidden Sun. But how does it work, and what is it actually, and how is it tied to the end of One Piece? Well, you can click on that video to find out, as you should if you really want to get the full picture. And otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and thanks so much to all the Patreons, and I will see you on Tuesday in the next video.